Well, of course, tonight on the Urban Debate, we're going to ask about the Bengaluru demolition. The opposition has named big builders. Is this enough for the government to act? What is the credibility of the report? Hashtag Bengaluru Demolition. Joining me on the show, Brijesh Kalappa Congress Spokesperson. NR Ramesh is likely to join us a little later on the show. Sridhar Pabbisetty CEO of Namma Bengaluru Foundation. Balasubramaniam, former Additional Chief Secretary of the Government of Karnataka. We also requested the companies that have been named in this report for responses. We've received responses from a few of them. I'm just going to read out responses that are still coming in. The Brigade Group has written to us saying the Brigade Gateway is an integrated development. The Orion Mall is one of the components. It's been approved by authorities, built in operation of the past 5 to 6 years after complying with all regulations. There's no waterlogging on inside or outside of the project. Our request, it says, to people who are making wild accusations is to allow the authorities to tackle waterlogged and flooded areas and give the civic authorities the opportunity to look into this in a dispassionate manner. That is the Brigade Group's alleged response to the allegations that are coming out right now. RMZ Corp has also sent us a response. They said the alleged encroachment, there is no encroachment by us and nobody's life is affected by us. They will consult their lawyers and take appropriate action about this report soon enough. That's responses that we're getting right now. I want to bring in Brijesh Kalappa. Brijesh Kalappa, we've sent you a copy of the report as we received it. I want to remind our viewers that we have not been able to, get Mr. Ramesh to give us, documents that verify details in his report. How is the government reading this report at this point?
The government will read the report as a report should be read, and this is a former BBMP member which has made the report, but also there is always the angle of politics because if I'm not mistaken, he belongs to the BJP, and as you know that many of these buildings came up during the BJP regime, so they have to first disabuse themselves of the notion that many of these irregularities and many of these violations happened during their term in office. So naturally, if the BJP member has to do this, then he has to naturally blame the Congress or people who are presently in government. That's, I think, something typically which any member of the BJP should do. So I think, first of all, this report, whether it's a true report, whether it has any validity, whether it has any value attached to it, is something which I think the government will look at, and it will certainly look at. There's no problem with that. But the kind of allegations which are being made, I think surely Mr. Ramesh would have appeared a little more neutral if he had named a couple of BJP members also, because one of these buildings, I know for a fact, for instance, in the Brigade Group in Orion Mall, I know of a chief minister, former chief minister of Karnataka, who belongs to the BJP, who has 3 apartments there. So is Mr. Ramesh going to give us the name of that chief minister? Is Mr. Ramesh going to tell us who that chief minister is, how he came across 3 apartments in Benami names? Is he going to give those names? No, if he's going to give the complete story, there's no difficulty. But if he's going to say that no, only the Congress is to blame and other officers are to blame and the BJP is a set of sacred cows, nobody is willing to buy it. I think it's immaterial that such a report is made, and of course to get an ounce of publicity at this time, many people will give out such reports.
All right, I want to bring in Mr. Balasubramaniam. Mr. Balasubramaniam, I'm glad to have you on the show this evening. If you've read a copy of the report, and I've asked my team to send you a copy earlier today, does this in any way coincide with the research that you've done in the past? Because I must point out the fact that this report names every developer, almost every large developer in the city of Bangalore. It names 29 tech parks, which is almost all of them. It names 30 malls and multiplexes. It names super specialty hospitals. So nearly every large construction that's happened in the city of Bangalore over the last 10 years has been named in this report. Although the report, which is a 9-page release that has been sent to us, doesn't have, it doesn't have any verifying documents. It doesn't refer to the documents, the RTI documents that it seems to have used as its sources. What is your reaction to the report when you read it, Mr. Balasubramaniam?
Yeah, I have gone through this report completely. There are 9 pages of it. As you said, it mentions a large number of builders, politicians and officers and all that. But the first point I want to make it is Unfortunately, this is getting politicized now, I find. The fact of the matter is it's not this kind of approvals and these encroachments have been going on, not just during the past 2 years, not just during the past of 7 years, but it has been going on for the past about 25 to 30 years. And this BBMP as well as the BDA, they have given so many of these approvals. Now, the technical point to be understood about this, with reference to the reply given by one of those builders which you read out, is this, that the approvals given by the BDA, that is what is called NOC, no objection certificates, and the BBMP's building permissions given, that does not take into account what is there on the ground, in the sense that if a survey number, the basic unit of measurement is survey numbers. Supposing there are 10 acres of survey numbers some 50 years ago, and over a period of time that gets sold and resold and many times sold, and then so many sale deeds take place, and ultimately a builder buys these, let's say, 10 acres of land and builds a huge big apartment complex. So the point to be noted is this, that on that 10 acres of land, 50 years ago, there has been this what is called Rajakalways or stormwater drains. These are coming for over a long period of time. Not only these Rajakalways which are being now mentioned, but there are so many other features, like for instance cart tracks, and then walk tracks for the villagers, and then there are rock growths called, in revenue language it's called B Karab, and then small ponds. All these physical features lie in that 10 acres of land, which gets leveled, and then construction of apartments or commercial complex are built up.
Mr. Balasubramaniam, this is my question to you.
Let me complete this, because this is a basic point which people should understand. You see, these do not get obliterated. These belong to the people. That is what is called these Rajakalways, and then the Bikarab lands, these contracts, all these things belong to the public and therefore to the government. That cannot be alienated by a sale deed. Sale deed is not a title deed. Sale deed only says that X is selling so much of property to Y. And if stamp duty is paid, the sub-registrar will register it. If I sell Vidhan Soda to you for say 10 crore of rupees, that sub-registrar will register it. But that doesn't make you the owner of that place. So this is a
but if the BBMP then collects property tax from me for the Vidhan Soda, then how would you respond to that, sir?
Yeah, that doesn't. You see, the so-called khata, what they call, is only an account to receive the property tax. They do not say that
so what is so then, Mr. Balasubramaniam, what is the actual paper of ownership?
Then at no point in shouting. The legal point is this: the BBMP's khata is not the document of title. The document of title will have to be inquired into through the detail as to originally how this land came into existence, what are the features of the land. Only the revenue department and the survey department people have got these details. These are incidentally available to the BDA as well as to the BBMP, but over a period of time they have disregarded all these things, and for various reasons like corruption and big builders' influence, politicians' influence, all these things are...
So I have a question for you. Mr. Balasubramaniam, I have a question for you, and I will go back to Brijesh Kalappa about what the government is going to do if all of this turns out to be true, because we are talking about every large construction in the city right now. It can't, I can't imagine a case where you have to go out and bulldoze everything that, makes Bangalore what it is today. But, Mr. Balasubramaniam, the Brigade company has written back to us and they have said that we have built this construction after complying with all of the zonal regulations. There's no discrepancy of any sort. We've had no waterlogging. The lands were acquired by the CITB BDA in the 1940s. The property was part of the Rajajinagar industrial suburb. A portion was allotted to the Kirloskar Electric, from which the Brigade Group has acquired it. And they have said that we've, proactively gone ahead. They have said there's no encroachment. We've proactively gone ahead and clarified our point of view with the BBMP. We have not violated any rules. We have no waterlogging, which is what I was telling you. What is your response then to the company that turns around and says this?
Yeah, I'll give my response. This is what they have replied, they have claimed. So all these things will have to be verified as to what are these different permissions that have been given, from where did they get these permissions, whether the revenue department, the survey department was consulted, the original survey map was accessed, whether that was checked. All these things will have to be verified. Both the allegations made by Mr. Ramesh, which seem to be containing on the face of it quite a lot of details, but then it doesn't give the basic documentation to support that. So those things will have to be verified. Before that, one cannot jump into conclusions, either the allegations which Mr. Ramesh has made or the reply given by one of the builders. The same thing, reply will be given by all the builders, I'm quite sure.
Brijesh Kalappa, how will you deal with this from inside the government? And I want to go over, what we're talking about here. In the 29 tech parks, Mahindra Tech Park, Embassy Golf Links, RMZ, Brindavan Tech Park, Saralapuria, Global Village, Kirloskar Tech Park, Prestige Tech Park, Electra, Prestige Tech Park 3, EcoSpace. If we were to bulldoze all of this, that's almost every tech park in the city of Bangalore. Orion Mall, Mantri Mall, Garuda Mall, Central, Phoenix Market City, Forum Value, DLF Mall, the Kirloskar Mall, the Gopalan Fortune City, Columbia Asia, Fortis Hospital, SS Hospital. How will the government deal with this information? Is it possible, if it turns out that this is true, which seems like a huge, bomb of a list right now, how will you deal with it from inside the government?
Now, one, this list is highly speculative, and two, there are ways and means of going about finding out if this information is correct. But as you know, like I have been telling you, that in the last so many demolitions which have taken place, very few entire structures go. Some, maybe a parapet wall goes. Insofar as the martyr is concerned, one pillar had to go. In this form, some portions of the entire building have to go. And that because it is exactly those portions which are either encroachments or which are either on the stormwater drains or on the nalas or what you call it. Now the point is this, that if you're going to take 25 names, for an average viewer, he's going to imagine that this entire Orion Mall is going to be brought down. Perhaps we don't know whether the entire Orion Mall stands on a stormwater drain or not. That, I think, only the authorities have to tell us. Now the point is this, that in 99% of the cases, it's only a small portion of the entire structure which is falling foul and which is violative. And that, like I've told you and I've repeatedly told you, because this entire story of demolitions, which is being carried by the press, which on the one hand was entirely with us when the floods occurred, and then the press has shifted the goalpost and now wants to project the other side. I am repeating to you, and for the benefit of your viewers, that many of these structures, a very small portion of the property was brought down and not the entirety of it. So this is something which I'd like to state and reiterate. So if Mr. Ramesh is now making a series of allegations, it doesn't mean that the entireties of the properties, including by his own statement, would be falling foul of the violations. There would be some portions of it. This is my imagination, by having seen how the demolitions have occurred so far. And he's also spoken about buffer zones. Right now, as you know, there is an NGT order which is holding the fort. And the NGT order is very clear that, the buffer zones which were originally thought of have been extended by the NGT. Now that matter is in the Supreme Court. So nobody is going to touch the buffer zones. As of now, that is not in contemplation. What is being in contemplation now is the stormwater drains and the nalas, because they are the ones which lead to flooding and the other issues. Now, whether buffer zones will be touched or not will be dependent on what the Supreme Court decides. But Mr. Ramesh's report, includes those portions and everything. So, for that reason, besides, of course, the politics, I've already said that he's a member of the BJP and he hasn't named a single member of the BJP, despite the fact that most of these irregularities and violations occurred during a BJP regime. So clearly he's trying to shift the blame on the government, because the government today, whether you like it or not, is being seen as proactive, is being seen as pro-people and pro-citizen, because they have, without fear or favor, acted against people, acted against these violations, acted against encroachers. So clearly the BJP has an agenda to water down these achievements of the Siddaramaiah government and make us look bad. So this they will do.
So there are, of course, 30 Congress politicians who have been named of Karnataka, the first of which is KJ George. His connection to the Embassy Group has been named. Sridhar Pabbisetty, What is your reaction to this list? We were at this channel having this conversation yesterday about big fish not being brought into the purview of the government. I again want to remind our viewers that this report is only a press release at this point. It has none of these details have been verified. Mr. Ramesh has not been able to share with us documents from which he sourced any of this information. He claims it's RTI information. We have not been able to verify it, and the government tells us that they will investigate the information before taking any action. Sridhar Pabbisetty, as a citizen, what is your reaction to this report?
Firstly, as Mr. Balasubramaniam said, I have no extra power than what Mr. Balu also has in terms of either authenticating or not authenticating the findings of Mr. NR Ramesh. But having said that, one thing that we should always remember is that there is 80-20 rule in most of things that happen in life. The 80% of encroachment, if government had to act upon, they had to go behind the systematic violators, and which was something that we stated in the earlier episode as well. So somewhere even on day 12 of this encroachment removal, and we are told that this is going to be a 4-month drive, we have not seen any big builder acted upon. And yesterday, last morning, I think there was one major thing that was carried out by the mayor himself leading the charge, and what they were able to break down was just a few tent sheds in a huge apartment complex that was being built by a leading developer, and that too, that was next to the Harloor Lake. So it's important for us to figure out and say that we have not been assured by the government of its own what they are repeatedly saying, that there will be no they will not look at rich separately and poor separately. So that thing is yet to be seen. Having said that, I also endorsed Mr. Balu's view of saying that this has happened across regimes. BJP, JDS, Congress, all have been at the helm of the affairs, and this is an accumulated problem, and some action has begun on it. I would only begin by saying, bringing back notice onto some important issues. One is the Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's house, which has been in the news for various reasons. It's important that we have not got answers of saying that how 4 feet of demolition that was said to be being done in the first day has now moved into 1 pillar, and I'm told that now it will be 2 pillars of his house. So why is this confusion? Why are these repeated surveys giving different results? Survey is a technique, is a civil engineering discipline which should give the same results how many times ever you repeat. This is not just happening at Dodbam Sandra. This is also being seen in Avani Shringeri Nagar, where other set of demolitions are being identified, where 4 different set of surveys and 4 different set of markings have been done over the last few days. So it's important that the government comes out and puts these documents in the public domain, and also the 80-20 rule of going after the large encroachers has still not begun. So unless the government puts out its own list of saying who are the large encroachers and how are we going behind it,
there's a certain level of comfort,
not real enough belief that we see as citizens.
Right.
And I would also like to take one more minute and talk about the National Green Tribunal, as we are also party to that PIL. The NGT order is prospective, and the Supreme Court, where the appeal is being heard, is not touching about the rest of the NGT order. They are only talking about the fines that the builders are being saying, and any other issues they are willing to listen. So at this moment, the NGT order stands, and the NGT order only talks about prospectiveness, not retrospectiveness.
All right, Sridhar, let me get a response from Brijesh Kalappa. Okay, I want to get a response from Brijesh Kalappa. Brijesh, you've heard
I'll just make a quick point. I'll just make a quick point. Prior to the NGT order, the buffer zones have been defined by the Regional Master Plan of 2015. That was, that came into work from 2007-2008. In that, clearly, there are buffer zones, there are buffer definitions of 30 meters, 50 meters, 25 meters and 15 meters. So it's important for us not to kind of obfuscate what is happening in the legal thing, and it's important for us to keep in mind that there were buffers that were valid even before NGT order, and the NGT order has only enhanced it and given more clarity.
All right. Okay. Brijesh Kalappa, we've heard the discussion so far, and this particular list will need more work from everybody. While I accept the fact that the list is so exhaustive at this point, and because it names almost everybody, it seems unlikely. The truth is, of course, that from the government's point of view, we haven't had a single name at all. So it took complete extremes of the same problem. On one hand, the government hasn't come up with a single name, and on the other hand, you have the opposition here who's named everybody in the city. What Sridhar is saying is fair, that for a certain level of comfort from citizens who are facing demolition, to know that everybody is being treated on par, it's important for the government to make a lot of these details more public.
No, but you see, all these details, like I have stated and I am stating again, have been disclosed to the parties where the the demolitions are taking place. First, like I have stated earlier, that these properties where the demolitions were to take place, including in Lieutenant Colonel Niranjan's place. Today, like Sridhar Pabbisetty just mentioned, I am told that Puravankara was acted against, and there are some more other builders. But like I have been stating and again restating, our specific drive today is to ensure that the flooding does not happen. And that is the exact drive just now. We are not looking at the larger, the larger framework where the entirety of the encroachments are going to be knocked down. At least that is not our thrust for the moment, because everybody has to go. Everybody has to go according to a plan.
Okay.
And the plan today is to ensure that flooding, if there were to be exponential rain, would flooding again occur? The immediate need is to ensure that this flooding does not occur, and the immediate need is not to clear the city of all the encroachments. That is certainly not the immediate purpose of what we are doing. And like I have already told you, that this is not activity which we are happy doing. This is not pleasurable activity for us. This is activity which we cringe doing. This is activity which has come, like Mr. Balasubramaniam has just mentioned, over the last 20-30 years. Unfortunately, we are today in a position where we have to act, and we are acting, and it's something we are constrained to do. We are not happy doing this.
Brijesh Kalappa, I unfortunately have to wrap up this debate right here. Sridhar Pabbisetty, I do want a commitment from my guests that we can reconvene tomorrow at 8 p.m. on this channel. I invite all of our viewers to reach out to us over the next 24 hours if you want to be part of this debate. If you're facing a problem that you'd like the government to address, get in touch with us. We're also going to attempt to get NR Ramesh, the author of this report, in the studio to talk about where he got his details from, and we'll try and get responses from as many developers as possible. The idea is to make as much information available to the citizens of Bangalore, and that is our main aim here, to be as fair as possible and to make as much information available to the citizens of Bangalore. I want to thank all three of our guests for being on this debate. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about the killer potholes that are claiming lives in the MMR region. That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere.
You can watch live TV on our website mpnow.in. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Magicbricks Now. And don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at Magicbricks Now. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/Magicbricks Now.